Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2024 release, A Quiet Place Day 1, and I'm going to have to tell you right now, I have seen the first Quiet Place. I saw it actually in the theater, which was a very cool experience, because during that film, when it's silent in the theater for the most of the film, you also feel like you're kind of in the movie in a sense, because you don't want to be the person making noise in a crowded theater, or even like eating snacks, anything like that, just moving in the seat and it creaks, that type of thing. So I saw the first one. I did not see the second one, part two. I have heard that it was at least decent. This one, I'm going to highly recommend. This is actually one of the best horror films I've seen so far this year. It is definitely in my top 10 at the moment. I still have more films to see, but I highly recommend this one, and that'll also be reflected in my rating at the very end. This is no spoiler, though, just so people know. Although at the very end, I'm going to talk about some thematic things. Sorry, one of those days, just got done work. Yeah, I'm going to talk about some thematic things, so if people find those things spoilery as well, I'll let you know before I do it, so you can drop off. But real quick, please do me a favor while you are here. Subscribe to my channel if you want to support me. Do the thumbs up on the video to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. Hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos. And if you are interested, I just started doing memberships recently, so there's a link for the membership sign up in the description. No pressure. You can just kind of look at what the perks are, and if it's interesting to you, you can do that. But anyway, getting on to it. Directed by Michael Sarnoski, who did Pig, which I love the film Pig. The Nicolas Cage starred film Pig, and I get some similar feeling between this film and Pig, which is obviously a great thing because I really love Pig and Nicolas Cage's performance in it. That film was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. It was very good. I actually have a review for it on my channel, so you can look for that. Written by Sarnoski as well as John Krasinski, who did the first A Quiet Place, and he also was involved in writing the second one. And he also did Promised Land, was another one he had written. I actually went ahead and rented this through Fandango at home for $6.35. They just had a price decrease. It says it's on sale for the moment. I don't know how long that's going to last, but you can check into that. So, A Quiet Place Day 1, what is it about? Well, if you've seen any of the Quiet Place films, it starts with an invasion, basically, of those critters, those creatures that have no eyes. They just go based off sound. So people need to be very, very quiet unless you want to get killed by these aliens that just fall from the sky. So you're introduced, you got to have a main character or two. So in the very beginning, you're introduced to the character who's played by Lupita Nyong'o. Wait, I wrote her name down. I need to make sure. Lupita Nyong'o. Yes. And she was great in Us. That's when I became very aware of her. She was amazing in the Jordan Peele film Us. And she does a phenomenal job, by the way, in this, as well as, I had his name down here, Joseph Quinn, who played Eddie Munson in the show Stranger Things, which a lot of people loved him in that. So anyway, Lupita Nyong'o's character is in hospice. So it's a very different type of character than I've seen in films before. I was going to say scripts, but I was thinking about the script a lot when I was watching this film, thinking about how that must have been to write it, because it must have been kind of challenging. And it was so refreshing to see different characters, especially the main character, where she is in hospice at the beginning of this film. Like, it's literally established by the fact that you know that she is not long for the world. So you're like, how are they going to use this in the film? And they do use it to in different ways. And I'm obviously not going to tell you how, but her attitude is very dour because, how are you going to feel when you're in hospice, really? You're not going to be very chipper. I know some people could be, but most people are not going to be. So basically, she is taken out on a day trip with the group from hospice to this marionette show, which is actually pretty cool when they show the marionette show. And then it's when they're going to be leaving is when the invasion, and this is New York City, when the invasion of New York City starts. And it is chaos. And then it kind of goes from there. So it's mainly about her trying to survive, and she meets up with another person played by Joseph Quinn. And it's basically about them trying to survive But there's also a cat. She has a cat with her, and that's always going to get me with films. I love cats. I'm a big cat person. I currently have 2 cats. I've just always been into cats. When I was a child, I wasn't able to have them because my mom was allergic. So I had always said, when I'm living on my own, I'm going to get cats. And I did get a cat when I was finally able to, who sadly passed away back in April of this year. She was my first cat, and she was my buddy. I'm sorry. It's still tough to talk about, but I love the fact that there's a cat very heavily featured in this film. You don't find that very often, in addition to a very different lead character. So they got me they got me early with this film with the cat. The characters are very interesting, not run of the mill, and that's not just for the main character. There are a bunch of other characters, well, a few other characters who end up showing up who are more interesting than you would think. The setup is very effective. What I just described in the beginning with going to the marionette show, and then all of a sudden just chaos breaks loose. It kind of reminded me a little bit of some of the stuff in Cloverfield, which is a hard movie for me to watch because of all the shaky cam. But also, unfortunately, it reminded me of the scenes that I remember seeing on the news in New York City when the Twin Towers were destroyed. It had a lot of echoes of that. I don't know if that was intentional or not. I kind of feel like it probably was. And for that reason, it does hit a certain way. It is very deeply affecting in that sense for someone like myself, someone who actually saw it unfolding on television as it was happening. The destruction everywhere that the main character goes through is devastating to see. You're following this character through this destroyed city, and you're just seeing destruction here, destruction there, and it looks so ominous. It looks so realistic. It like, and knowing that this is New York City, and everyone's seen images and like TV footage of what New York City looks like when it's hustling and bustling. There's so many people there, so to see it empty and just in shambles, it's just so deeply affecting. And they did a great job with it. They handled it very well. There is a way they have characters talk, which they kind of come up with like clever ways that they can actually do some talking, so it's not all just silent as far as dialogue goes. There is actually some dialogue in it, although there you also have those moments where, you know, they're writing things down to communicate with each other, or just kind of, you know, making motions to each other, which is also fine. A lot of that in the first one. There was definitely a lot of problem solving needed for the script, because there, you know, when you think about the concept of people need to make sure that they're not really making noise, there are a lot of problems that can come up with you trying to move a story forward. Be like, okay, we need to get these people from point A to point B. And you're just like, yeah, but then when we're having things happening, we have to make sure they're not making a bunch of sound. Because otherwise, people would be watching this film and being like, creatures would have nailed them right there, made too much noise. So, although I would say there are a few moments where I'm like, might that have been too much noise? Potentially. But a lot of respect for the script writing on this. Like in the first one, there are good moments of tension built from the silence and the worry of the smallest noise unleashing total chaos on the characters. For that reason, you do feel very on edge within the film, and this is one of those things that I always talk about where when you kind of like drop the score out of a film where you have it very low level and there's no dialogue going on and you're not making a lot of noise, it makes things more tense, or at least it does for me. I think that silence and just hearing the sound design, and especially in this situation, knowing that things need to stay very quiet, it is kind of anxiety inducing at times. And, you know, being someone who has anxiety, I can tell you it spiked it a little bit here and there, not tremendously. The relationship between the characters played by Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn is everything in this film. I love the relationship between those two once they first meet up, where things end up going, how they how they look out for each other and try to survive. Won't tell you if they do or don't, but yeah, that relationship so well written. It unfolds in such a great way from a film standpoint. Cinematography did a great job with that, and just the score as well. That composition is wonderful. It becomes a very emotional film in very unexpected ways, and it really got me. I have to be honest, I bawled my eyes out with this film, not necessarily for, it's actually really not for the reasons that you would think. Um, and it, it just got me. And one of the things was the cat. Like I was getting choked up earlier thinking about that. It just really got me focusing on, my cat Chloe and her being gone and me missing her so much. So it's hard, but it also got me going because of thinking about other things that I'll kind of talk about in the thematic portion. But the ending, I think, is very strong with this film. I think they did a great job with it. I highly recommend this film. Out of 5 stars, half stars in play, I'm giving it a very good 4-star rating. I think they did a great job. And who saw that coming from a third installment in a newer franchise? I certainly did not. I had no idea it would be this good. That's pretty great. So now I'm going to transition over to the thematic stuff. So if you want to, stop, you can go ahead and do that. All right, now the thematic stuff. There's a theme of finding yourself again after you feel like your life hasn't been what you want it to be. And that is another one of the things that really got me crying, is because, I'm very transparent about things. I've been through severe anxiety and depression issues in my life very recently. And, when you have anxiety and depression, it's not something that fully ever goes away. It's just to what degree are you dealing with it. And I've definitely had times in my life where I'm feeling like this is not my life. I'm not myself. I'm not who I used to be, and I wish I could get back to that. And this film really touches on a really big portion of trying to find who you were, and kind of that feeling that you can get when you're able to do that. And I just love that about it. And that's one of the things that really got me crying. Yeah, I mean, I'm still feeling a little emotional at the moment about it, but yeah. I will say I do want to make a comparison with this film. This felt so much like another film that I've seen before in a very good way. The film called Starfish by A.T. White, who actually on the project went by Al White for director credit. Very similar films, feel wise, as far as themes go, and actually the subject matter. So if you really liked A Quiet Place Day One, I would highly recommend Starfish. And if you've seen Starfish, I would highly recommend A Quiet Place Day One. They play very similarly. Great double feature right there. So anyway, thanks everyone for taking your time to watch this. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, keep it brutal.